This is Zerit, which is one of the drugs that Médecins Sans Frontières was going to use in their clinic, and this is one of the focal points of the battle over access. Now, the reason why they couldn't just get this drug for cheap right away is that the pharmaceutical company who owned it, Bristol Myers Squibb, they owned the patent, and that patent represented control over the drug. But the good news is that the initial patent actually was owned by Yale University, which is a very high-minded institution aspiring to the highest standards of academia and ethics. And they had this original patent, so Médecins Sans Frontières approached them and said, "Hey, can you release the patent on this? You know, it's for a really great cause. We could really run our clinics using your antiretroviral drug." They said, "Sorry, we already signed an exclusive license to Bristol Myers Squibb. We can't really do anything legally. Our hands are tied." So Médecins Sans Frontières untied their hands with a very damaging public relations campaign that was supported by everyone, and there was an op-ed in the New York Times making Yale University and Bristol Myers Squibb look like monsters, and they actually brought the price down from $15,000 per patient per year to $350 per patient per year. Yeah. And this is because of generic competition. They were able to have a bunch of companies all working against, using market forces and all that sort of stuff to drive the price down. And you can imagine the kind of scale of treatment that you're able to create with $350 per person per year instead of the previous. So value. Now it's important to recognize that HIV is not the only, although it's a terrible pandemic, it's not the only disease that's out there. There's infectious diseases, there's non-infectious diseases, and many of these treatments, thanks to research and development at universities, many of these diseases have treatments. Heart disease is a huge one. Statins are probably one of the biggest miracle drugs of recent memory, which really make heart disease morbidity and mortality knocked right down, and they're amazing. And these drugs are actually, as we do alleviate poverty, they become more important because these diseases that are classically thought of as rich people's diseases spread to people in the developing world. So there's a group of students at Yale who were kind of working on this campaign, and they thought, well, maybe we can be more systematic, and maybe we can be more proactive. Instead of having a battle over every drug, we can maybe decide that the drugs that universities help to create are just accessible to people right off the bat. So we don't have to make anybody look bad, and everybody understands what's going on. We're on the same page from the get-go. So what really helps is statements like this. Universities like University of British Columbia have mission statements, many of which aspire to the highest ideals. The University of British Columbia, among many other things, will conduct outstanding research, and it does here, to serve the people of, yes, British Columbia, of course, Canada, but also the world. And this is right in their mission statement. And so as university students, we'd like to hold them to encourage them to uphold their ideals. And so one mechanism that we propose is called global access licensing. And this is your researcher here, and what I'd like to talk a little bit about is university technology transfer. So perk up before lunch. So this is a research, this is me, say I'm working upstairs on my PhD. I discovered this molecule that might be able to be turned into a drug. And there's an office called the Technology Transfer Office, or TTO. And they exist to help me as a researcher move this drug into development so that it can be eventually tested clinically and sold on the market and alleviate whatever illness it is for. So I'll patent this drug, but the patent really doesn't do much because UBC doesn't have the resources to develop drugs on its own. So this patent gets licensed to a well-known pharmaceutical company, which then does the research and development, treating people that are able to pay for it with money bags. And part of this revenue is returned to the university in the form of briefcases full of unmarked bills. And it's actually kind of true because they're able to use this funding in an unrestricted way. And if any of you are involved in university administration at any level, you'll probably know that getting unrestricted funding from any source is really a godsend for a university administrator. So the unfortunate thing is that it leaves this huge population out in the cold who don't have the money bag, so they don't have access. So what we propose is that in accordance with the university's mission to serve the people of the world, that they should simultaneously license it to a generic company, which would then make medicines for these people who would either themselves, if they're in a middle-income country, or if they're really poor donors can intervene on their behalf and treat everyone for a small amount of money, which will encourage the drug production and so on. So this is just one of many other many mechanisms that could work, but I just wanted to kind of illustrate that we've thought this through and are thinking about it. So it sounds great, right? Maybe a little bit idealistic. Let's hop in the hippie van, and the dean's got to hear about our ideas. You know, let's go, let's do it. Let's hit the road. But actually, there's the really great news about this is that UBC, if you haven't heard, has already agreed after a few years of working with us, and I'll talk about who us is in a minute, but they've adopted a set of principles for global access to UBC technologies, which is really, really exciting for us. They are committed to use something like global access licensing for every technology that is deemed appropriate and could help people out in the developing world, either drugs or other technologies, that sort of thing. So it's really, really exciting. And this is the group that I'm part of. It stemmed from the group at Yale University. They started Universities Allied for Essential Medicines. It's our website if you want to find out more. They basically work with universities as willing partners in trying to address the many concerns that I talked about earlier, essentially making drugs affordable and accessible to people living in poor countries. And the really exciting thing, too, is that University of California at Berkeley, which you probably heard of, Emory University, which you may not have heard of, but both of them are massive, massive contributors to the drug development pipeline. And these university administrations have also agreed to do something like this. So we've been able to move the discussion, at least in a core group of universities, away from, well, should we do this at all, to how tactically can we do this at the technology transfer office level. So there's all sorts of great work that still needs to be done, but it's really exciting to be part of it. This, to illustrate the real success, not just the paper success of this initiative at UBC, this young man is suffering from a form of a disease called leishmaniasis. That's its most lethal form. It's called visceral leishmaniasis. If this young man is not treated, he will certainly die. Nearly every patient who contracts this disease, if left untreated, will die. This is also the sandfly pictured there, which is the parasite that transmits the vector that transmits the parasite. There is a treatment for this infection. It's called amphotericin B, or AMP-B. The unfortunate thing is that it's really toxic, and it's also really hard to administer. It takes intravenous administration, and if you're in rural Africa or rural Asia, good luck to you trying to get an IV line. And it actually has the side effect of killing the patient 1 out of every 3 times. Very non-ideal. I mean, I guess it's better if the disease will kill you for sure, but I think we can do better than that with our all the resources of our biomedical fields. This is Dr. Kishore Rasan. He is a faculty member at UBC, and he's actually discovered an oral formulation of amphotericin B. He's really interested in this because he's from India, where this disease is also endemic. He wanted to contribute. And the really great thing about this drug is that it addresses both the IV delivery concerns, because you just take a pill, and also it's far less toxic. And it's still 99% or greater effective, we just heard, in animal models, or animal studies. So it's hugely exciting. But the important thing about this and the connection between our movement is that without something like global access licensing, Kish Wasan would not know necessarily what the path would be to move his drug from development in a lab to ensuring that it gets accessed in rural India, for example. So we're really excited about that. It's the first implementation of global access licensing anywhere, as far as we're aware. So you should be pretty proud of that at UBC. Maybe write Stephen Tupa, Dr. Stephen Tupa, a letter thanking him, the Senate thanking him, if you like. What else can you do? Stephen Tupe's the president of UBC, sorry. So you can give talks like this one for, in the pub or to your 300 closest friends. Hug your professors. The odds are that professors love talking about their research. They love it. And if your prof is working on something that can contribute in some way, either a technology, like an engineering project, or maybe a drug that could contribute to helping people out in poor countries, they probably love to talk about it. If they're not, probably somebody they know is.